It's very clear to me, based on the facts, that neither one of you did anything to hurt your daughter.
No, sir. No.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, it's just 2 weeks after the Dr. Phil interview where the mother of Summer Wells walked out of the interview, and it's actually just 17 hours since Candace posted some information explaining, kind of providing an excuse for why she did walk out on that interview. I'll be providing some more detail on that a little bit later on. But since then, the law enforcement are back with a vengeance. They're back in force. Another massive search underway around about 6 months after Summer Wells disappeared. And that is certainly good to see. The official reason, and I think it does make sense, is the foliage, the vegetation is a lot thinner now that it's sort of closer to the middle of winter. And so they want to concentrate their search in areas that were previously difficult to access and difficult to, even if they could access it, difficult to sort of work their way through. And now nature itself has sort of thinned it out. Certainly visually it'll be easier to penetrate, and also physically to get through some of those sort of jungle areas in Tennessee. So are we likely to expect a different outcome today on day 168? It's around about 5.5 months since 5-year-old Summer Wells disappeared. Is the outcome likely to be different? Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So one thing that's been interesting, curious, and odd in the Wells couple's version of events was that Summer had to have been abducted and removed from the area. I don't know if you guys remember, Don was at pains to emphasize that Summer was likely far away. He also sort of admonished the authorities, saying that he wished they'd closed down the Beech Creek area. And then when you heard him speaking on the interview room, he sort of, when they were going step by step through it, and Chris McDonough had quite a lot more information perhaps than Don expected. Don then complained that Don couldn't get out and search for her because Beech Creek had been kind of closed off, right? So that was kind of quite an interesting contradiction. But the point is that Don did say in the early messages he posted on Facebook and some of his early interviews that he suspected that Summer was already far away, perhaps in Mexico. And that is basically telling you, well, don't look for her here. She's not here. She's far away. And that then perhaps is a reason to look in the area. And that is exactly where the authorities are looking. They have assembled a massive search, quite a few volunteers, or actually looks like law enforcement personnel, but still a large kind of search army that have sort of come together in the Beech Creek community. Although some of the terrain still appears green, certainly the grass and the brush, the sort of ground level area will have become changed color and also changed in density, making it easier to walk through and easier to see the ground, to see what is kind of at ground level. And it may also be easier for dog teams to move through the area and also to smell in the area. I would be very interested to know if the authorities in Tennessee have taken a leaf out of the massive, probably much, much bigger investigation into the Gabby Petito case. Her remains were found fairly quickly. Of course, it was helpful that there were people in the area, and also Brian Laundrie, where it was less helpful, but they nevertheless found both sets of remains fairly quickly compared to almost the 6-month mark of this particular case. But I think it just proves that, with enough resources and enough determination, perhaps a little bit of luck, you can find somebody. So the other thing that I think is interesting is that, Don and Candace were sort of also at pains to say that Summer wouldn't wander off, right? And why not? Children wander off all the time, almost like puppies and dogs. They sort of wander off all the time. And so surely she could have wandered off and something could have happened. She could have stumbled in the woods or gotten lost. And so why not the latter? How could you be absolutely sure that she didn't wander off? Well, because that would mean searching for Summer in the woods. And is it possible that somebody doesn't want the search to be for Summer in the woods? Isn't it possible that that is exactly where the Wells couple don't want law enforcement looking, right? If you look at what Don Wells told Dr. Phil, he said that Summer got taken immediately out of the house into the woods. And according to his story, according to Don's story, the dogs then followed the trail through the woods to Ben Hill Road at the bottom, where a car was waiting, and Summer was then removed from the area. Now, if you think about it, if law enforcement truly believed that a vehicle was waiting at the bottom, why would they be searching those woods, that area? Why would they be still coming to the Beech Creek area if that was the case, if the authorities thought that or believed that? So today we very well might find out if she's still there, if she's still in the woods. Now, something I'm going to touch on in another video, but I'm going to just touch on it now before we get to that, is in the same news coverage of the search, there is still some sort of residual coverage of Candace Bly sort of cutting short her interview on Dr. Phil and sort of walking out of it, kind of in a huff, very emotional, very upset. And one wonders also whether the authorities 2 weeks ago watched this, saw this, and were kind of felt an incentive that, Summer's still out there. What we've heard isn't good enough. One wonders whether the Wells couple going on Dr. Phil backfired and has actually galvanized this search. What do you guys think? What is also interesting is on Dr. Phil, at the moment that Candace wanted to cut the interview short, she was being asked pertinent questions about her movement. She was being asked about the day that Summer disappeared, what she was doing, how long certain things took. And Candace didn't seem to want to answer that question. She's provided a different explanation for why she walked out of her own interview, but we'll get to that in an episode after this. So I'm not going to take it further than this. We are going to be watching the developments today with bated breath. Let's hold thumbs that something does come out of today's search efforts. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
Nobody deceives like an addict.